Yo, what is up guys, this is Twister and today I'm back with another GTA video, and in this one I just wanted to go through some of my honest thoughts on the Smuggler's Run DLC because it's been out a couple of weeks I think, and we've seen most of what there is to see in the whole DLC, so I think this is the best time to make this video and give you my honest thoughts on Smuggler's Run. So where should we start? We'll start with the business, the actual hangar business. What I would like to consider should be the main appeal of the DLC because it's the new gameplay stuff, it's how you make the money. So we'll start there and with the hangars, to be honest. So I think the hangars themselves are actually pretty decent. There's some decent options. You can go for a cheap one at the LSIA airport, or you can actually go for one in Fort Zancudo, which is more expensive, but you've also got like the access to the military base there. And in general, just having a place to actually be able to store a lot of the Pegasus vehicles that we already own, as well as some of the new planes obviously that they added with the DLC, that's pretty good. Also being able to upgrade them as well, that's great. It's just something that people have been wanted in the game for ages, so having the hangars as the place to do that, it makes sense and that's pretty decent. And obviously you need to buy the hangar to start up the new businesses, but thankfully you don't have to start buying loads of new warehouse properties. You know, you just buy the hangar and you get started from there. But other than those few things, the hangars themselves don't really have that much functionality, which is why personally I couldn't figure out why I want to spend 3 million, even at the mill base, for the hangars. I just went for the cheapest one. The hangars themselves don't really do much, but then again, you do need them to be able to access the new stuff in the new DLC, so that makes sense. And that takes us on to the new missions that got added. We'll talk about those. I think the missions themselves are pretty decent to be able to actually play through them for the first time. They were unique enough to actually make you want to play them, but then after that, beyond that, I can see them getting pretty boring pretty quickly. It's like when the crate missions got first added in with the Finance and Felony. They were pretty fun to do at first, but then after a while you played through all of them so many times it just got pretty boring pretty quickly. So that's just the same thing that I can see happening with the Smuggler's Run DLC. A good thing about these new missions though is that a lot of them, when you're doing the sourcing missions to get some of the warehouse crates, the game does actually give you one of the new vehicles, like a new plane or something, so you can actually try it out in the mission and see if you like it, which it's pretty good. So you don't have to spend millions and millions on the new vehicles. But then again, something that I started thinking, if the game is just giving me one of the new vehicles to use in this mission, then why would I bother buying the new vehicles when it just gives me one anyway? I don't know, it's kind of confusing. But I think being given some of the new vehicles, depending on what mission you're doing, is overall a pretty good thing, to be honest. Now for the payouts, we'll talk a little bit about how much money you can earn. The max payout is 850k. If you haven't seen the video where I talked about that, you can go watch that one. I'll link it on screen in the description. But 850k max payout isn't too bad. I reckon that's actually a pretty viable amount of money that you can earn per hour, especially if you've got a group of 4. But it really isn't that good for solo players because with a group of 4 you can collect 4 crates each time you do a mission, but if you're playing on your own you're only going to get 1, so it's going to take you ages to fill up the hangar if you're playing solo, and it's just not really that efficient. And again, another annoying thing is the associate payouts still don't seem to have gotten any better, even though pretty much everyone knew that the associate payouts were still trash, even since Finance and Felony, and it's still the exact same. Associates barely get paid anything compared to what the CEO is earning from being able to do these missions. So it's like the game's trying to incentivize co-op play, but without rewarding the other people that are potentially going to be helping you out. So for me, that just doesn't make sense. So I think overall, the hangar businesses aspect of the Smuggler's Run DLC really isn't too bad. But then again, it is just another slight variation on the stuff that was already added into the game with the other DLCs. It's really similar to the Finance and Felony old warehouse businesses. For me, it doesn't really seem like there's been too much depth or thought gone into this aspect of the DLC, but it's not really too bad either. So we'll leave it there for the hangar businesses. We'll go on to the vehicles next. I think that the new planes and the new aircraft in general are pretty cool. There's quite a bit of variation in there. If for some reason you really like planes, then you're gonna enjoy the new planes. Like, that's pretty obvious, I shouldn't need to say that. But even I thought doing the new missions in some of the new aircraft was pretty cool, because doing specific plane-based missions was never really a thing in GTA until now. So, you know, having all these new planes, new helicopters with some new weapons and upgrades, and actually, you know, being able to customize the new planes and helicopters without having to spend hours and hours or millions and millions on shitty research before you can actually even buy the upgrades. Thank God there's no research, that's definitely a good thing. As for the new cars, we've only got 2 of them right now unfortunately, but the cars seem pretty good. I think over the past year since import and export, I think the cars have definitely gotten better and better, especially with the new sports classics, the supercars that we got in import export, the retro cars. Basically a lot of the new regular cars have been pretty on point in my opinion. I think the only complaint with the regular cars we've been getting lately is the fact that every single time there's a new supercar, there isn't really too much variation. A lot of focus is always on supercars, and then lately there's been a lot of sports classics. I think there definitely needs to be more variation in the type of cars. We need some muscle cars, we need some decent sedan cars and coupes, but every time it's usually always supercars because that's how they can charge millions and obviously get shark cards. You guys know the drill by now because it keeps happening every single DLC and every update. But like I said, apart from that, in general, the new cars have been pretty spot on. However, going back to the new planes and stuff, having all these insane new aircraft vehicles and special vehicles, it seems pretty great at first, but then when you start to see just how many OP vehicles are being added into the game, they're all extremely expensive, they're so overpriced, you start to enter pay to win territory if we weren't already there with the other vehicles that we got in gun running and before that import export. I can't really see how any of the new OP vehicles have been logically balanced in any way. It just seems to me like they've all been made stupidly OP on purpose to be able to warrant the ridiculously expensive prices that Rockstar are charging, like 5-6 million for some of the new planes. It kind of gets out of hand in my opinion. I'm pretty sure I saw a picture on Foxy Snaps' Twitter going through all of the prices of all of the new vehicles and planes, and the prices for all of them comes to 50 million in-game money, which is $600 in shark cards. It's just getting bloody stupid at this point. I don't know how anyone can look at those prices for all of the new vehicles and think, yeah, that's pretty reasonable, I'm going to go buy $600 in shark cards to buy all these. Like, nobody thinks like that. And on top of that, the way that the new vehicles have been implemented in the recent DLCs, we've got personal vehicles for aircraft, we've got personal special vehicles that can either be stored in the import-export warehouses or the gun-running ones that can be stored in the personal garage. On top of that, you've got normal vehicles, you've got biker vehicles if you're using an MC, you've got CEO vehicles where you can spawn a buzzard, but you've also got a personal vehicle version of the buzzard, as well as the Pegasus vehicles as well. It's an absolute mess. The vehicles in-game need to be sorted out so they can work in some kind of logical way, but it just won't happen. Instead of fixing it, they'll just add more. That's all Rockstar seem to be doing lately. Anyways, let's move on to everyone's favourite topic when it comes to a new DLC, and that is the drip feeding. So in Smuggler's Run, I'm pretty sure I heard that more than half the vehicles that were added into the DLC are made unavailable and will be drip fed as new content weeks and months down the line. I think this time around the drip feeding is probably going to be as extensive or even worse than gun running was, and gun running was pretty bad, but it looks like Smuggler's Run is going to be even worse. But to be honest, that was to be expected in my opinion. Everyone knows how bad the drip feeding has become. Everyone knows that it's probably only going to get worse, it's not really going anywhere. So I don't really know if there's anything more to say on the topic of drip feeding, to be honest. Actually there is, and it's something that confuses me, is the fact that some people actually seem to like the way that Rockstar drip feeds some of the new content, which really confuses me since the whole concept of drip feeding new DLC content is to be anti-consumer. I've spoken about this before, and it's basically Rockstar being like, yo, here's a new vehicle which you actually probably wanted to buy weeks ago when you had the money for it, but we didn't actually give you the option to buy it then, and we hoped that you didn't know that we were going to add this vehicle 3 weeks down the line or 1 month later. They rely on people being misinformed about the new vehicles that are being added. So even though me and you know that there's a ton of new vehicles being added and they're being drip feeding later on, a lot of players probably don't know that, and that's why the drip feeding is so successful for them. For example, there's going to be a Batmobile added into the game at some point as drip fed content, which I still can't decide whether or not that's a good thing, because it's a Batmobile, which is cool, but like, this is GTA we're talking about. I really have no idea the direction that Rockstar are taking with GTA Online, but it's just so random these days. But anyway, that's pretty much everything. I guess I'll just wrap up the video with some overall thoughts. Basically, how I see things, there isn't really any long-term goal for GTA or GTA Online anymore. They're just trying to stack up loads of short-term content just for the sake of adding new stuff to the game without really going back and making any of the previous stuff that we've already got in the game better for the players. The best you're going to get in terms of improving old stuff in the game is just throwing double money on some random adversary mode rather than improving it, because apparently money is the only thing that matters in this game to players anymore. That's why Rockstar can shit out adversary modes such as tiny races, but as long as it's double money and double RP, people will play it. People will go nuts over it because they're making money from it. Anyways, those are my honest thoughts on the Smuggler's Run DLCs. At least it wasn't as bad as gun running, guys. I think that's one positive we can take away from this update. Let me know your overall thoughts and opinions on the Smuggler's Run DLC. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the video. If you have, make sure you leave it a like rating. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Follow me on Twitter, it's @iTwister. Also join my Discord server as well. Both of those linked down in the description. Cheers for watching, guys, and I'll hopefully see you all in my next video. See you later.